Hello everyone and welcome back to my opinion. And this preview video we'll be looking at the side that won the competition last year in their inaugural season, that team being the Gujarat Titans. Looking back to last season, I didn't have too much hope going into the previous season. I think that I was confused by the makeup of their squad. I thought it lacked a sense of being robust despite the fact that there were and still are some impact players there. And certain players that they picked, the likes of David Miller and Rahul Tewatia, where we'd seen some contributions from them in the past, but especially in the case of David Miller, I think in the last 6 or 7 seasons before the previous season, he'd scored, I think, 250s or so. And we saw both those players have resurrecting seasons the previous time around. And in David Miller's case, a player like him should have never had a rut of a few years. After 2012 to 2014 for the then Kings 11 Punjab, he hadn't continued that momentum of performance in other IPL seasons that he had played, and he hadn't done too much in the international circuit either. Ever since the previous season, he has been doing very well in international cricket once again, and will be going into this competition with an enhanced reputation from what it had been in the previous years. And it should have always been at this point, really, for the kind of player that he is, the player that we know he can be. He finally is showing signs of more than signs of that after a few years. And yeah, very happy that he is back to form in this past year, and he will certainly be integral to the Gujarat Titans' chances. And on Rahul Tewatia, 9 crores for him in the mega auction. And I understand that there was a demand for Indian players in the mega auction. But at the same time, this is someone who, after that performance against the Kings 11 Punjab in IPL 2020 in Sharjah, a performance and a game that will go in folklore, he hadn't done too much at all with the bat. And in the previous season, we saw what he did with the on occasions he finished the game off for his side, where his side needed those big hits to seal the game. The first game, I think, against the Lucknow Super Giants, where he did hit a few runs along with David Miller to finish the game off. The game against the Kings 11 Punjab again, where we saw Dane Smith throwing the ball at the stumps. It became 12-2, and we saw what happened then. So, last season was a resurrecting season for both these players, and I expect them to be in good form in this season as well. And they'll have to be in good form because I think that looking at their squad for this time, there is still that precarious nature about it, especially with how the top 3 will go. I know Shubman Gill has been in very good form in international cricket in all formats of the game, but no matter how much, or no matter what he does in T20s, we saw the 126 he scored against New Zealand. He still hasn't quite convinced me about how he'll go in this format. I mean, I believe that he can be a good T20 player, but compared to the 3 formats that he is playing right now, I think success in T20s is the one that, especially compared to his ODI game, success in T20s is the one that will be the harder one to achieve. He had a good season last year, 480 odd runs, and I think the reason why I'm saying there is a precarious nature about the top 3 is because you've got him, you've got Ridhaman Saha, who, like I said, it's a 60-40 split. 60% of the time he doesn't do too much. And in the 40% of the time he gets consistent contributions. And the strike rate goes up as well. And you see how he takes on the bowling in the power play and pretty much throughout the innings, really. And they'll need him to play well and be in that 40% cluster. Like I said, he was in that form in the previous season. We've seen that form for the Sunrisers as well in a stretch of games. And when he's been playing well, it really has transformed the side at the top of the order. And Kane Williamson, who had a wretched season the previous time for the Sunrisers, and he's a quality player, and I believe he does have good T20 credentials, despite the fact that he hasn't done much in the format for a while. And ever since that IPL season, he hasn't been too great in international cricket either in that format. 2 seasons come to mind when in the IPL he's done very well. IPL 2018 was a fabulous year, 735 runs. And with David Warner not being available in that season, you saw him really take up that mantle, more than take up that mantle. And I actually think that season was the reason why they have really chose to retain him for the next few years. And in IPL 2020 as well, I was impressed because you've got a case where he at times even batted at number 4, and he played these cameo innings at about 150 strike rate, but that allowed his side or helped his side to get to a decent total. And in that year, SRH, after resurgence to the latter end of that season, they got to the second qualifiers. So I thought I was especially impressed with the role he played in the 2020 season. But despite the fact that he does have credentials in this format, he hasn't gone too well in this format for the last year or so, and they'll need him to go well for the Gujarat Titans to have a good season. The top 3 as a collective is a bit of a question as to how they will go, and they will at least need to do what they did in the previous season with what the openers did. And I actually thought they could have got a Rassi van der Dissen at number 3, the same base price as Kane Williamson. I was confused why they bought Williamson when you've already got a Shubman Gill who doesn't blaze away up top, despite the fact he goes aggressively at the power play, and we're still not quite sure of how he will go in this format, and he's not a kind of player that does blaze away in general. Ridwan Sahar, when he's in form, he goes at a good strike rate, but like I said, there are clusters of games where when he's not in form, the strike rate drops considerably. And you've got a Kane Williamson who's not done too much in this format for the last year, so that is a point of precariousness for them. On the bowling front, they've got Azari Joseph, whose improvement in the last year has been phenomenal. We saw what he did in the previous season, where he clocked 150 kph at times and has been doing that more often since then. He was good for JSK in the SA20 and leads the West Indies attack in white ball cricket. And I feel, despite the fact that Lockie Ferguson has gone to KKR since the previous season, Azari Joseph is bowling as well as he ever has done, probably the best he ever has done, and is at the right point in time in his career to lead this Gujarat Titans attack along with Mohammed Shami. They've got Josh Little as well for 4.2 crores in the auction, and the only uncertainty surrounding Josh Little is whether he would be fit for the majority of the competition. He currently isn't playing for Ireland in their tour of Bangladesh, and he has struggled in terms of his fitness in the last while. A fantastic bowler, and I think that with him and Azari Joseph in the same side, that's very good overseas bowling cover. And I'll get to the starting 11s in a bit, but I actually thought that they could play Josh Little ahead of Azari Joseph, since if Sai Kishore bats at 8 and Rashid Khan at 7, you've got batting up to 8. But with the fitness issues of Josh Little as of now, I think Azari Joseph will be starting the majority of the games at least, but again, that is still a very good bowler whoever you start. They've got Rashid Khan as well, who we've seen how good he has been in the IPL and in any T20 game that he has played. 92 games, 112 wickets, and I think when we saw an SRH where you've got a Bhuvneshwar Kumar, Rashid Khan, Johnny Best or David Warner, and I've named 4, I think, roadblocks for the opposition in a T20 game. You think, right, we have to really contest with these 4 contributors in order to win the game, and I think Rashid Khan has been a legend in this format, and he'll once again be integral for their season this year. And I think, look, in his case, you don't have to worry about what he would do because we know what we'll get for him, so that's on that. And the captain himself, and before I mention the captain, actually, I think Mohammed Shami in the previous IPL season really showed. We've seen him bowl in the IPL in the past. He's gone at almost 9 and over for the Punjab Kings, despite the fact that he has been bowling well. But in the previous season, I thought the surfaces did suit his bowling as well. And we saw a few times in the last IPL that even if teams scored 200 or so, if you hit that length, the ball does a lot. And in that situation, you saw bowlers like Prasidh Krishna, Mohammed Shami, Umesh Yadav have very good seasons. And Mohammed Shami, 20 wickets the previous season. And for him, an economy rate of 8 overall, I think is fantastic. It's been higher than that in the previous season. He mostly bowled 3 in the power play and 1 at the death. And because of the other bowlers around him, he's not felt too much pressure in that 1 over at the death, and he's done brilliantly in the power play. So he's been fantastic in that. He was fantastic in that season, and I believe now he is the best fast bowler in the world. And you've got a kind of attack that I've said here, and it really does look like a fantastic attack. And you've got Sai Kishore, who in his T20 numbers rather, he's got brilliant stats, 57 wickets in 49 games and an economy rate of, I think, less than 6. I saw him in the TNPL ever since its inception for the Chepauk Super Gillies. He briefly played for, I think, the Tuti Patriots, but he's back at the Chepauk Super Gillies, I think, and he really has been very good there. And we saw in the previous season during the IPL, we saw what he did. Played a few games, but was economical and took a few wickets. So, and with what he's done, with what he can do with a bat, he can be very handy with a bat. And I think he can bat at number 8 in this side with Rashid Khan at number 7. So you've got a bowling attack there where you've got, with the 11 that I've got, you've got Shivam Mavi or Yash Dayal playing in the side. If you play Shivam Mavi as well, the entire team can bat to some degree. We've seen Mohammed Shami in Test cricket produce vital contributions for India with the bat. And that's getting on to, of course, their overall squad. I think that they could have done better. I think I've implied this already, but they could have done better in terms of hammering down on an advantage from the previous season where, yes, the squad selection the previous season was precarious, but you've got a case where it's worked out well for you, and you've got 19 crores to spend, and you can really hammer down thinking, right, we're going to win the competition for the second year in a row in our second season. I thought Shivam Mavi for 6 crores was quite a high price to pay for him, and he's been included in the Indian side, but with all due respect, I can't really understand why that would be. And he's going to have a better season than he did in the previous season. 8 crores for KKR in the previous season, and he played a few games, a couple of games, and went at 10 and over. Didn't play after that. So he's going to have a better season there. And of course, the captain himself, Hardik Pandya, with bat and ball, he was brilliant last season. With bat, he played like a proper number 4, 487 runs in that season. And he scored at 130 odd strike rate overall. He at first kind of took his time, and then on a few occasions we saw him really finish the innings. And he's going to have to be that glue at number 4 once again, and hopefully if Kane Williamson fires, if Shubman Gill fires as well, then you've got the other players that can assist that role of him being the glue there, and maybe he can be a bit more expansive. But even if he goes the way he goes in the previous season, I think that for him personally, he will have a fantastic season. And people they're saying this less now, but people said before, maybe we could get the old Hardik back, but I don't think we need the old Hardik back. This one is way better with both bat and ball. The responsibility that he's been showing with his batting and his captaincy as well, leading the T20 side for India. So I think this version of Hardik Pandya is the best version, and I hope that he can continue this form for however long, and I'm sure he will. And looking at the 11s for the 11 for this team, I've got Shubman Gill, Vridhaman Saha opening the batting like we saw in the previous season, and you got Kane Williamson at 3, Hardik Pandya at number 4, David Miller at 5, and Rahul Tewatia at 6, Rashid Khan at 7. You've got 3 players who may take their time, especially 2 of those in the top 3, but then you've got the next 4 there who, when finishing the innings, you've really got a fantastic 4 players who can finish the innings, and Sai Kishore can help hit a few boundaries at the end as well. And you've got either Ozari Joseph or Josh Little to play at number 9, and if you play Ozari Joseph, you've got a bit more with the bat as well, although I do think, like I've said, you only need batting down to 8 in a T20 game, and you should prioritize the bowlers, and whoever you play, they're in good enough form to do the job. Shivam Mavi or Yash Dayal at number 9, and you got number 10, and you got Mohammed Shami at number 11. And of course, with the impact player rule, with naming 2 different 11s depending on how the toss goes, you could play the extra bowler and extra batsman, and that would be okay. But the one thing, like I've said before, the one thing you've got to think about with this Gujarat Titans side is You've got the top three there. If Hardik Pandya bats the way we saw in the previous season where he takes his time at the start, David Miller in his first 10 or 11 balls off late, ever since he's really rediscovered his touch, hasn't been the player that goes quickly in his first 10 or 11 balls. So if you've got already so much of the innings that passes before you get a finishing kick, that could be the thing that puts them in trouble, despite the fact that they've got a good bowling attack there. Under an 80, you'd think it would win more games than it loses for them. You could even, especially with the impact player rule as well, but on the bowling side. But with the bat, even if you're looking at the impact player rule, yes, you've got Abhinay Manohar there, who is no slouch with the bat if you're looking for him to finish an innings. But they will be looking for the top three to go a bit quicker than they do. Or even if they get to like 120 or 14 overs kind of mark, you'd back the finishing core to get them to 180 score at least, but we'll have to see how they go. But if the top three goes okay, I think you've seen the resurrections from the previous season. They'll need some resurrections again, especially with the likes of Kane Williamson and Shivam Mavi as well. You get those resurrections, then there is no reason why this team can't qualify. But without those resurrections, I think it will still be difficult. So that's on them. And yeah, let's see how they go this season. But I think they fall into the category of teams that certainly can qualify if things go well for them. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Be sure to video with a friend. Remember, this is my opinion. What's yours?